As we head into the new year, we want to take a look back. There were lots of stories to share with you over this past year. KCBD News Channel 11's Case Wilbanks has your year in review for 2022.
2022 began just as it came to an end with a cold snap, but also a murder on New Year's Day at the Carriage House Motel on the Slayton Highway. Joseph Sandoval is accused of killing Edward Mays while on the run from federal authorities. 11 years after the disappearance of Haley Dunn, the longtime person of interest, Sean Adkins, was indicted for her murder and is expected to go to trial in April. Former Lubbock dentist Jason White was sentenced to 30 years in prison for production of child pornography. 18-year-old Alexis Avila is accused of attempted murder after her infant was found in a Hobbs dumpster. The shocking incident is caught on camera. And the final of the 15 employees of the Rager Dykes Auto Group involved in a floor plan fraud and check kiting scheme would be punished with Shane Smith, the CFO and leader, who was sentenced to 7 years in prison. Students would welcome February in tents outside the United Supermarkets arena to get the best seat for what would be a victory over the Longhorns and to witness Chris Beard's first return to Lubbock since taking the helm of the Texas basketball program. 2 are served warrants for murder and robbery in a 2019 missing person turned homicide case of Sandy Cervantes. And a man would be charged for the murder of 21-year-old Cypress Ramos found dead in a storage unit in North Lubbock. The Electric Utility Board and City Council make historic votes to opt into the competitive market with ERCOT. Lubbock Cooper makes history too, deciding to name its future high school Liberty High. And the Lubbock Preston Smith International Airport cuts the ribbon on its $42 million overhaul of the 40-year-old terminal. And the 100-year-old Anderson Brothers Jeweler shuts its doors. March's primary election sends Curtis Parrish back to the Lubbock County Judges Chamber and Jordan Rackler to the Precinct 4 seat in the next year, but prompts a runoff in the race for State House District 84. Callie Kettritz's crash would bring out the green for her recovery and return later in the year to ropes. Bart Rager would learn his fate, 14 years in prison for making a false statement to a bank. An explosion at a South Lubbock home would be blamed on crews hitting a gas line, an issue that would continue plaguing the city and prompt an ordinance to charge fines. A big step in the extension of I-27, a federal highway designation for the corridor, is signed by the president. And the former president of Texas Tech, who served 2 presidents of the United States, Lado Cavazos, dies. Now his name is expected to replace Fort Hood. A tragedy strikes the University of the Southwest golf team when their van is hit head-on near Andrews, killing 7 team members as well as a man and 13-year-old from Seminole in the other vehicle. The Red Raiders return to the NCAA tournament, making it to the Sweet 16 before falling to Duke. March would come to an end with news from a special grand jury. Kyle Carruth would not be indicted for the shooting death of Chad Reed. April would come with a new warning, an outdoor warning system in Lubbock. Spring winds fuel fires and burn dangerously close to South Plains residents, but in Ruidoso would burn 200 homes and kill 2 people. May brought with it a shock to the nation with a leak of a draft opinion from the Supreme Court, eventually overturning Roe v. Wade. The historic Four Sixes Ranch is sold to the creator of Yellowstone, and the city elected new leadership, a mayor and 3 new council members, bringing the council to a majority makeup of women. And Southwest Digest issues its last edition, the newspaper that brought equity to storytelling since the 70s. District 84 voters selected Carl Tepper to represent them in the State House, a state that would face another mass shooting at Robb Elementary School, this time in Uvalde, killing 22. And the first honor flight in 2 years would take off with South Plains veterans to Washington, D.C. In June, gas prices would hit their highest, an average of $4.52 in Lubbock. Leprino Foods breaks ground in East Lubbock on its $1 billion cheese plant. And the Bailey County judge, Sherry Harrison, faces a push to remove her from office amid allegations of misconduct, drunkenness, and she's eventually indicted and suspended for her actions. In July, Lubbock County marks a year since the loss of its SWAT commander Joshua Bartlett in a shootout in Levelland. And TxDOT begins its overhaul of 19th Street. August brings a settlement in a case between Marlene Stallings and Texas Tech over her firing. and dogs run wild in the new McAllister Park. Carlos Rodriguez is sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Zoe Campos. And in an effort to prevent tragic button battery deaths, Reese's Law is signed by the president. Texas Tech announces its centennial celebrations with a surprise that the Goin' Band from Raiderland will perform in the 2023 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And a new horse for the Masked Rider gets the Centennial Champion name, that ahead of a new Joey McGuire era, one that brings a winning season to Texas Tech, bowl-bound, and for the first time in the same season, wins over Texas and OU. The former coming with the search for an unsportsmanlike fan and a fine because fans stormed the field. The Lubbock County Sheriff's Office arrests one of its own deputies accused of trying to buy fentanyl and smuggle it into the jail. Joyland announces its closure after 50 years, only to later be saved by a few local families. And Lubbock says goodbye to Councilman T.J. Patterson. A deadly dog attack brings the issue to the forefront of public safety discussions in the city. And the replacement of an AC unit is blamed for sparking a fire at the boulders at Lake Ridge, forcing 28 people from their home. A warrant is served in a 2009 murder of Willie Butler in Lamesa. And tragedy strikes in Levelland again when two animal control officers, Crystal Goforth and John Corder, lose their lives in a crash. On 124th Street in Lubbock, a fire leads to the discovery of 4 bodies. The apparent murder-suicide kills 18-year-old Felipe, 15-year-old Andres, and their mother, Angelica Vasquez. In November, Lubbock voters take up another road bond proposal and vote in favor this time. The wheels of justice start spinning faster as jury selection in Hollis Daniels' capital murder trial begins 5 years after the deadly shooting of Texas Tech police officer Floyd East Jr. And in Hockley County, Operation Snake Eyes busts game rooms and sends many to jail. And to close the year, the city's branding campaign unveils its LBK logo, while the iconic Double T comes down to make way for Jones Stadium's new South End Zone. And scandal in Seagraves when its superintendent is accused of invasive recording. Days later, he'd take his own life. Scandal 2 ensnarls Chris Beard, facing claims of domestic assault. And college football fans in Texas Tech and beyond mourn the loss of the Pirate Mike Leach. At 61, he dies after a heart attack, but inspires us all to continue to swing our sword. And this year, KCBD made a big move to South Lubbock and got a new look. We said goodbye to our friend Sharon Maines after her historic career in Lubbock TV News. We also marked some milestones, 20 years of the community coverage tour and 40 years of the You Can Share food drive. All thanks to you for joining us along the way. And we hope you'll be there with us in 2023, KCBD's 70th year on the air, for more coverage you can count on.